Vlad responds, saying, "Listen, Bronn, you know the king as well as I do, and you know he'll want the dragon egg back." Bronn takes a step forward to say, "Leave the king, come join the resistance, and make Outpost a safer place." Vlad stands there a moment, looking thoughtful. "Fine, we accept your offer. I assume our new lord will be providing a place to stay for the night for his new soldiers?" Bronn turns to Grandmaster. "What do you think, Grandmaster? Do we take these outsiders in and train them?" Grandmaster sits and says, "We need good men for the resistance. I say, trust your gut." Bronn turns to Vlad and outstretches his hand. "From this day on, you're a soldier serving the resistance with the mission to take down King Danfon. What say ye, Vlad the Pale?" Vlad stands there, a steely look in his eye. "I accept your terms, Bronn, and name ye Destroyer, first of his name." Bronn stands there with a cocky grin, then turns towards Grandmaster and says, "How about that, Grandmaster? Now we both have some flashy nicknames." Grandmaster stands and replies, "Don't start now, Bronn. We have business to attend to. Or should I say, Lord Bronn." Bronn takes a few steps towards Grandmaster and says, "Sounds good, sir. Let's use teleport magic now to get back to Outpost and check on our progress." Grandmaster says in reply, "Sounds fine, but don't you need to send Vlad the Pale on his way?" "Good point," Bronn says to Vlad. "We need to return to Outpost for now. I expect you and the Legion men to be at Outpost as soon as possible." Vlad stands at attention, giving a quick salute, saying in reply, "The soldiers will be at the Outpost post-haste," then runs back towards the 7 waiting men, leaving Grandmaster and Bronn the Destroyer alone with the corpse of Aaron nearby. His corpse was already beginning to attract flies. Bronn says, "Grandmaster, let us take Chrysalis for ourselves and make it back to Outpost." Grandmaster, nodding, readies a teleportation spell and grabs Chrysalis off Aaron's body. Grandmaster grabs hold of Bronn and says to him, "Ready or not," and teleports them back to the Resistance outpost. Suddenly, Bronn and Grandmaster were back at the outpost gate, and the sight of Pole and Phil were a sight for sore eyes. "Fancy seeing you two here. Have I told you of my new title, Bronn the Destroyer?" Bronn says jokingly to his friends. With a turn of his head, Pole looked at Bronn affectionately and neighed loudly, running up to Bronn and nuzzling his soft fur in Bronn's hair. "Whoa there, boy. I missed you too. Was Phil taking good care of you?" Phil stands up, quickly leaning on his bow, and says to them, "Nice to see you back in one piece. How did our friends the Kingsmen take to our welcome to Outpost party?" Bronn stands and says, "Well, enough, I suppose. They're Legion men now, and will be essential to our fight against King Danfon and his snow-white dragon, Garifina." Aragorn looks Bronn in his eyes and says, "And what about your little mission to King Danfon's castle, then? That didn't have anything to do with the 12 Kingsmen breathing down the outpost's neck, does it?" Bronn replies, saying, "Listen, Phil, all will be explained in due time. Right now, we need to get back to Grandmaster's home as soon as possible." Phil grips his longbow, turns to Pole and says, "Then you better hop on Pole with the Grandmaster now and get back there. I'll meet you both there." Grandmaster and Bronn both hop on Pole. As they depart towards the center of Outpost and Grandmaster's home, Bronn yells back to Phil, "You'll see, with my new weapon and the support of the Legion men, King Danfon's days will be numbered." Chapter 3. Hope for the people of Alagasia. "We're almost there now, Grandmaster," Bronn yells as Pole reaches the oak doors of Grandmaster's humble home. "Best check on that friend of ours," Grandmaster says, knowingly, turning to Bronn expectantly. "True, Grandmaster. I think it may hatch soon," Bronn says back. The pair jumped off Pole and headed into the house, where the sight of the egg was a sight for sore eyes after all they'd been through. "Grandmaster, did you see it move just now?" Bronn asks hesitantly. The Grandmaster begins to respond. "Not sure, Bronn. A sudden beam of red light is thrown from a crack in the egg, and the room is suddenly engulfed in red light. Bronn cries out, 'Grandmaster!' when all of a sudden the light is gone, and in its place a small red dragon stands where it once laid, red egg shells surrounding it. The dragon looked around the oak table intrepidly. Dragons learn quickly, Braun, Grandmaster says, proudly gazing upon the small red, winged creature. Careful, Grandmaster. We don't know this magic, and there is still much to learn about it, Braun replies, carefully reaching his tanned hand out to the sly creature now, rubbing its horned face onto the wooden table. Rawr, the red dragon maws quietly, a small burst of flame bursting from his maw in a puff of cool-looking flame. Been eons since we've had a dragon tamer, Grandmaster says, taking a few steps back as the small red dragon creeps closer to Braun. Indeed, would be a shit. Suddenly, bright lights and colors fill Braun's head as his mind is teleported away from the Grandmaster's hall, and his presence is hurled forward through a dark tunnel towards a white light at the end. Chapter 4. Braun's Decision. Ah. Braun's breath leaves his body as he lands his face first into the water of a darkened room, only adorned with 2 torches at the end. Where's the... Braun is interrupted as a fledgling dragon bursts into the room in an eruption of red flame. The red scaly dragon lights down onto the ground of the damp room, cawing and roaring softly as he lets out bright red flames. Now where the hell are we? Where did you... Braun is interrupted as the fledgling launches itself at him, suddenly ending the vision as everything snaps to black. Braun! Braun! Grandmaster yells at Braun as he rises slowly from the wooden floor of the Grandmaster's hall. The dragon is still on the table of Grandmaster's hall, now chasing his tail clockwise, growing ever more restless. Someone ought to claim this dragon. No one ain't gonna be I, much too old for it now. Grandmaster speaks in a sadly certain tone, his light gray eyes reflecting the torchlight in the halls in a most spectacular fashion. Guess it's got to be me then, Braun says, slowly, uncertainly, rising from the wooden floor and standing on his own 2 feet. He reaches his hands out slowly to the fledgling dragon, already raising his nose to Braun's outstretched hand. The red dragon closes the distance, raising his small nose into Braun's tanned hand fondly. Suddenly, a bright, white flash of light goes through Braun's mind, and a youthful, friendly tone speaks to him. Hi, Braun, the dragonling speaks, his voice sounding like a babbling brook. The bond between dragon and rider was final now. The red ink tattoo of a dragon tamer spread all over his left arm, the rose petal design striking the Grandmaster as a little odd for a tamer tattoo. Our bond will be strong, Bristle says, his voice sounding very clear in his head. Our bond will be strong, Bristle says, his voice sounding very clear in his head. Grandmaster exclaims loudly, By the 5, Braun! You're the first dragon tamer this world has seen in over 1,000 years. Braun examined his new petal tattoo closely. Now was not the time to admire the handiwork, though, as Bristle the dragon was now stretching his wings on the ancient oak table in Grandmaster's hall. Braun, this could become an issue. I know we have the Kingsmen on our side now, but there's still plenty of mercenaries and outposts that would kill for the chance at stealing the first newly hatched dragon the Underaf Kingdom has seen in the last eon. Grandmaster, please trust me. I know Bristle hatching in the battle with Kingsmen has been a lot, but please go along with this for now, Braun says. The Grandmaster nods, brushing Bristle's head horns affectionately. The crimson dragon stretches his new wings, breathing out a fresh plume of fire, this one being the largest one yet. Bristle takes to the air then, his red wings veined with purple veins, strutted proudly from his scaly sides. A loud knock at the door draws the attention of both men. They turn towards the door of the hall as a well-dressed man with skin the color of coffee walks confidently through the door, placing his sword and shield, adorned with a crimson sun, by the door as he turns towards the 2 men and begins to address them. What the hell is going on here? Jace says, visibly concerned by the sight of the 2 knights, one of which now has a crimson dragon perched on his broad shoulder. We need to figure some things out right now, before King Denfine catches wind of this and sends us all to his dungeon, Jace says, his voice echoing throughout the Guildmaster's hall. and his white cloak rustling silently against the ancient wooden floor, the red sun it was adorned with moving along with it. Listen, Jace, Bristle has just hatched, and I will need some time now to bond with this dragon before King Danfon catches wind of this and sends us all to the dungeon. Bronn rises with this newly hatched dragon, reassuring Jason that moment as he takes a seat on the wooden chair. You think King Danfon will just forget so easily this crime you have committed against the kingdom? His wrath will be thorough and merciless, and your bond with Sir Bristle now will hardly matter at all. Jace speaks quickly, speaking to Bronn in a tone that suggests time is of the essence. The Guildmaester, Bronn, and Jace surround the fledgling, wondering now the right course of action. The 3 torches in the hall burn brightly inside the Guildmaester's place. Well, obviously, Bronn shall take the fletching, as it is clearly already bonded with him, Jace proclaims. Thank you, Jace, Bronn says, his rose-patterned dragon tamer tattoo glistening red with purple strikes in the evening hours. Sir Bronn, what exactly do you expect to do with Bristle now that he is your dragon and you are his tamer? Jace proclaims, his voice echoing throughout the hall. Well, he is mine as much as I am his. Or she is mine as much as I am hers, Bronn says as Bristle blows a steady stream of fire now, brightly red-colored. Suddenly a knock on the door, and everyone's gathered attention snaps towards the door.